done our initial scoping. We know what we're going to work on, so we don't end up trying to cure cancer and create world peace. We've created a workplace scan. That board is on the side. We've taken our before pictures, and we'll be ready to take our after pictures, obviously, when we're done. We've done our initial audit. We got a 34 out of 100. Now we have to define our red tag area. And what's important here is we need to know where we're going to put things. Now in our red tag area, we look at this. The easiest way to deal with this particular spot is to get everything out of the way. That means we need a substantial red tag area. Imagine you're cleaning out your garage. The red tag area might be your driveway. So it's really important to understand what is it you're going to pull out. If in some cases we're just removing something, you need to know what that looks like. Now, what goes in the red tag area? As Shane mentioned earlier, the red tag area is where things go to die. If it's trash, we're putting it right in the trash can. If it's not trash and we're not sure where it's going to go, what's critical is we focus on the space, not the stuff. That's why this red tag area is so important. Don't let that be something that everybody trips on. Don't let that be clumsy. So when we establish the red tag area, we want to make it easy. Just take the stuff out and put it away. Again, we're focused on the area, not the stuff. Where a lot of people get tripped up on is they take the thing that's in their hands and they focus on where's it supposed to go. That's my neighbor's clippers. Next thing you know, you're taking the clippers back to your neighbors, having a couple beers, and nothing's getting done. We have knowledge of certain areas and certain things that are going to go together. For example, the Christmas decorations, the seasonal decorations, are going to not go with the kitchen gear, and they're certainly not going to go with the airplanes. So when we pull this stuff out, it would help us to keep certain piles and keep things together. It makes us see what we want to have stored later when we do set in order. So the first thing is pull things out. In our red tag area, we're going to compartmentalize. We're going to have things we just don't know where it's going to go. We just don't want it back in here. But that's going to be a separate red tag area. We'll determine what that is later. We're going to sort while we're going through. We're going to be taking things out and making decisions about do we want to keep it or is it trash? And if we want to keep it, where's it going to go? The next thing is going to be which categories do we want. So we know at least we want an airplane category, we want a kitchen category, and we want a Christmas category. So what red tag area could possibly fit all this? Well, wait, there's more. In addition to what you see here, you need to ask yourself another question. What should be here that isn't currently here?
So we moved the ping pong table out of the way. This is going to be our red tag area, this large area. Margie was very generous and said that we could use this area for her stuff. You guys previously decided that you have categories of it, so we'll just put it orderly in the red tag area, but we're not going to sit there and go, maybe I'll use this, maybe it's trash. So we want to be very quick about it, getting that stuff out of the area so we can get to the other end.
Okay, so we're getting ready to do the sort, and we've got the red tag area established. Shane and Marge are going to mark it out so that multiple people can pull things and put them into the red tag area. Now, from a practical standpoint, when you do the sort, your team should be established using at least half the team that can make decisions on what goes on. And if only one person can make those decisions, the whole moving team becomes ineffective. It's the same thing with 5S. We need to make sure we have multiple people who can make decisions. One of the ways to do that is to mark out the red tag area, clearly identifying where things should go. Most people are going to be associated with that area, or at least know about that area. They'll be able to identify that, oh, this is Christmas stuff versus this is kitchen stuff. So it's another way of adding a decision-making capability or identification ability without having to depend on one person. And so we want to try and spread that information out as much as possible. The second thing is when you do the sort is make sure that you're prepared to go. When you do the 5S event, make sure you have cleaning materials. Make sure you have vacuums, trash cans, scrapers, gloves, razor blades, PPE. You don't want to stumble in the middle of the event or the beginning of the event on those little tiny details. It can really pull the team down and depress the excitement that happens with the team who's getting fired up, ready to go make some changes. So have all those prep items ready. Be ready to go.
This is everything we were able to pull out of there. It all fit in our red tag area. And what's common when we go to a client is the person who's the one making all the decisions does have to step out because they still have work to do. So in our case, that did happen, but we were still able, because we defined where all the stuff was going, we were able to just move it. If we had any question about stuff, we just put it in the red tag area anyway. So what might elongate your sort process is if that person has to step out, because then you got to kind of go through the stuff you sorted to figure out what's trash and what's not. But here, it's pretty accessible. So if Margie decides, we really don't need that, we can easily get to it and throw it out. The next step that we're going to go to is the shine part.
Sort. If you don't sort properly, you're going to pay for that for the rest of the event. So just like Shane said, we were able to move it off into the area and just open up this whole area. You can imagine us trying to do cleaning. We didn't even get to really cool stuff like painting and hanging lights if we had stuff in the way. So I really encourage you, sort hard, sort aggressive. We have dived into dumpsters. As Shane said, sometimes it's set in order, sometimes it's shine. We felt doing the shine first was a good way. So cleaning is one thing, clean through inspection, and inspection through cleaning. So now we've looked over the area, everything looks good, all the wires are good. Now we want to take a look at the next level of shine, which is painting and any other improvements. So we have these wonderful concrete walls, cinder block walls. They're kind of drab. Why don't we add some life to these things? We could paint the floor. Since we've only done portions of the basement, the whole big project, we might want to do the painting of the floors later. So right now we've decided we're going to leave the floors as they are. And as we get more organized and do these different areas, we may elect to epoxy floor. We don't want to make a decision on that right now. And frankly, the floor is fine. We're not using it as an entertainment space. So we're making a decision. We'd rather get everything organized, get it functional, instead of spending the time on painting the floor. So we are going to paint the walls though. Decided not to paint the ceiling. We're not going to hang a false ceiling. We're going to leave that as is too. Again, we might improve the whole area later, but for right now we want to get the area functional. We have these LED lights in a portion of the basement that I'd already gotten to. Now we're going to replace the incandescent lights here with LED, 4-foot LED light. Here's the lighting supposed to be. It's not really set in order. This is still part of shine. We'll hang the lights, we'll paint, get a gloss, those kind of things. That's a great idea. But also help keep it clean. We didn't do a training piece. We're all highly trained. We've all been doing this a long time. In the real world, we want to do 5S training. We want to explain to people why. We want to explain to the people who are in those areas why we're doing this. We want to be more effective. Even though we don't get paid to go into our areas and get the stuff, in work we do. But we want to be effective. We don't want to spend 15 minutes looking for something. 5S is a way of keeping the workplace organized. Whether it's the workplace or the home place, we want to keep it organized. So we'll paint it white, and I'll make it obvious when things are out of place. We'll also make it obvious when it's dirty, so we can keep it clean and good.
What you saw previously was sort, and then typically what we do is red tag area. We have the client go through. Once you decide that the area that you're working on is completely cleared out, we have the client go through and decide what's trash, what they're keeping, and how they want to containerize it. Margie has decided to use these bins. Everything she has that's important that she wants to go over here, it fits in these bins nice and easy. We built the shelves, didn't want to show that on video. At a normal client, we either buy them or they build them in-house as well. So we built these. They're perfect for her. 2 bins in each cubby. This is still part of the shine. So as you can see, we painted the wall, painted the shelves. It's all white. It kind of sticks out at you. We put new lights in. And then when Margie went through, she decided how she wanted to have the stuff. So they're just temporary indicators for right now, but Margie made the decision to
Thanks. It's
label it.
much better than what I had before, obviously, even the labeling. So we have a lot of Christmas supplies, so we put them over here. Added the bears. We have a collection of plush bears that we have some fun with, but we only use them at Christmas when we're using these things. So we did elect to just use these lightweight shelves. They're not blocking anything that I don't need at the same time, and I can just pull these out when we're doing the Christmas decorating.
That's perfect.
Each tote, I indicated what was in it, tried to give it sort of a heading like Christmas and different seasonal things, what season it was, and then listed exactly what was in it, so when I want to find something, much easier for me to go get.
We'll keep all the titles and stuff like that in a separate file, so that way if she has to either add something to that specific bin or add another bin, it's agile and we can change it up and just put a new label on. We're just going to put plastic sleeves on here, and these titles will be printed out and look really nice, and they'll just go right in. So that way when she walks over, she can see what's in it. We just try to make it as flexible as possible. So what we'll do is we'll also label the shelves, which you'll see in the video. We'll label the shelves 1 through however many are here, and that way over here you can see that if she needed to add more bins. So one of the best parts about labeling your shelves and making them visible right away, as soon as you walk in, you can understand what's in those bins because you can't physically see into the bins. So labeling it lets you know what's inside of it. Also what I did was I created a separate drive. So that way if Margie ever wants to add anything to the bin, all she has to do is go into the document, add it onto the sheet, and then she can put it right on the bin itself. It just slides right in and out of the sleeve. At a client, we would do the same thing. We might not label it this way, but because it's not in a very industrial environment or anything, it's not gonna get damaged this way. Here, every bin is labeled with what's inside of it, and then it has a page number to it which matches its bin number. So we've got 32 cubbies, and each cubby is labeled 10 and 10, 16, 16, and so on, all the way throughout the entire thing. This is where the temporary indicators comes in. It's crucial. You set up the area, get your shelves, get your bins, get all that stuff good to go. Then what you do is you have someone who is an expert in the area, have them go through and just put a piece of tape with a label on it. Someone who's not part of the immediate function of the area can go around and label it like I did. At a client, a lot of times they have to go back to work, like they still have to do their everyday thing. And we can do the labeling, we can do making it look shiny. All we need is the decision made by the client themselves. I was able to go ahead and label all the shelves. We predetermined how we wanted to label it. We used the 3/4 inch label, and then we just wanted to put a simple sleeve from Staples and put a sheet inside of it.
We have a status update. What we have right now is all the shelves in place, and as Shane described, we have temporary indicators that have now been turned into permanent indicators. All the shelves are identified and numbered. That means every item has a home, a place for everything, and everything is placed. Everything's orderly. We actually have a temporary shelf right here. So if we bring in something we're not sure where the home is going to be yet, or if we're going to keep it, you can have a temporary shelf. So that's an adaptation to what we're talking about from a standardization and a set and order standpoint. So what did we do? We did the sort. We got rid of everything that wasn't necessary. We had a sort side of the basement. We did set and order how things wanted to be. As Shane described, we had shelves built. We built the shelves. We identified from a set and order standpoint how much space we needed for shelves and what we needed for bins. We standardized our bin situation, so now when we have to add in more bins, we're going to go to Lowe's. We know what bin to get, we know what SKU is, we have that, so we can repeat that process. We know what the standardization is going to be from labeling. We know what the fonts are going to be. We have these on file. So now as we add product, we continue to update that. We did have a setback. It's kind of interesting. We had a flood down in our basement, and you can enjoy those videos now. The flood is something that taught us something that we already knew about how wonderful it is to have things set in order and standardized. The only things that weren't damaged in our basement flood was the stuff that we 5S'd. Everything we had here was protected. So that set us back though. So we had to do a lot of cleanup. We had to do a lot of reorganization of the basement that put our 5S project on hold. That's why there's a little delay on some of the videos. But now we're in a good situation. So now we're gonna come back. We've got our sort set in order. We've done our shine. We're gonna do a little bit more reshine here. Standardization, all the labels, all the color coding, all the font, everything. This is where it's supposed to be. So we've created the standard for the labels, and we've created the standard locations for things. Last is going to be sustain. We're going to do a follow-up audit of this area, and we'll post the audit and display. We have the current state, future state. That was the initial audit, the initial score. Here what we have is an audit sheet, display board. Our display board is showing a work copy, if you will, of how we were going to have our set in order, and we have our audit here. So the scan display, if you remember, it showed our before and after pictures. We have that. That's a really nice teaching tool for the home basement, not necessarily needed, but for work, it's really important. So we get to show people the before, we get to show them the after. A lot of times during these events, the team doesn't even realize the changes that have been made. Sometime around day 2 or day 3, people have a little bit of a lull in their excitement. They get so used to the new condition that they forget where they came from. So the before pictures are really important. Let's make sure people understand where we came from. That's part of the scan display. We do the audit. We had a 34 for the first. We're very close to a 100 now. So 4, 8, 12, 13. So 60, 75, 85, 88. Now, part of sustaining, the score for sustaining is that ask questions like, how often are we doing training? How often are we doing audits? So we haven't done them yet. Our score still isn't going to be perfect. But as we continue to do the audits and make changes and improvements, we'll get those scores to be improved. We're glad you were part of this process. It's a simple project. I hope we've demonstrated the 5 S's. Sort, get rid of what you don't need. Shine, clean up what you have. And cleaning through inspection, paint things. Make sure that the equipment is in good shape. Make sure that your belts, your hoses, your sight glasses, limit switches, everything's under control. Set in order, decide how things are going to be. Decide how you want things so that they're easy to get to. Location, location, location. Standardize, make sure it stays that way. If you think about standardization, it's how we create the rules for the first 3 S's. Lastly, it's sustain. If we want to keep it like this, we've got to create some process for sustaining, and that's going to be our audit sheet. This is a really good foundation for continuous improvement along the rest of the process. So whether it's the rest of the manufacturing process, the rest of the building, this is a way of instilling disciplines. It's a way of making sure people understand the rules and follow through on the things that are important to follow through on. For Prosit Business Consulting, for Shanelydon, this is ejlydon. Have a great day.